where they repeat but without knowing the meaning. They may repeat the intonation pattern or the word, but they don't know what it means. Then slowly, oh, this is not the words, it's just that intonation pattern. That's a stage of lalling. Around 10 months of age you see it. Then they come up with the first words, and then they put 2 words together by age 2. Then they use complex sentences by 4 to 4.5 years of age. That's when they're able to describe stories and incidents and all. So by 16 to 20 months, they start understanding 2-word sentences and try to use it. These are examples. Then we have 3 and 4-word sentences also coming in. You throw the ball, where is the ball, etc. Then some prepositions also they start using. Here, there. Refers to self using name. And some syntactical errors are seen. Then they start using pronouns by 24 to 26 months. I, he, it. Then they use lot of prepositions, and denials are expressed in sentences. Like, don't want to do, no, and things like that. Denying or refusing. And children with autism, they do not learn how to use pronouns at all. For a long time they get confused. They reverse the pronouns. What is your name? What is your name? This is my ball. This is my ball. Your. Repeating is there. Then whose ball is this? This is your ball. If you tell and give it to them, your ball, they will take it. They don't say it's my ball. That your becomes my, no? That person. Then like that, there are details added on. If, then they use. Then quantification starts. Little, many. Then by 3 years of age, that is 30 to 36 months, they start a lot of why questions, use several verb forms, and use plurals in speech. Then this is a little bit about the meaning aspects in sentence level. Because semantics, I told you, can be at word level, sentence level, paragraph level also. How they use the morphology of singular, plural, tenses, prefixes, suffixes, all that they start using in sentences to form the syntax and make meaning out of it. Slowly over time they decipher underlying or hidden meanings in a sentence. That's when the pragmatics also starts developing. And older children enjoy humor, which may be a pun or pun on words. They understand sarcasm, they comprehend the connotation of gestures, facial expressions, changes in intonation patterns. The depth of feelings is expressed using appropriate words. So all that social emotional development, everything correlates during the language development. So understanding of semantic content of a language is a continuous process. Comprehension of slang and of common words used in technical jargon for a different purpose would explain this phenomenon. This is pragmatics. The first thing, areas in pragmatics, topicalization, that is how to initiate a topic in a conversation. That is one main thing. Then conversational ability. Once the topic has been initiated, how to maintain that conversation. I have to wait when somebody is talking. Then when they are asking me, I have to respond to that. Then they will wait for me to start off with a new aspect. So use of register. Manner in which an individual speaks to another, that is the tone of voice, respect in voice, formal or informal address. Register is just nothing but the way you talk, you modify your voice for that. And use of syntactic forms to convey pragmatic information. Effective language. Message should be appropriate, should convey what the speaker wants to say. Non-verbal communication, use of appropriate facial expression and gestures, and also presuppositions about the listener. So when we talk about pragmatics in conversation, it will be initiation of a topic, maintenance of a topic, and ending, termination of a topic, how it takes place. While we are doing all this, we have to see the presupposition of the listener, whether the listener is really interested in what I am telling, whether I can go on with it or cut short. That kind of knowledge you should have about the listener also. These all come in pragmatics. So these are some pragmatic things that they start off with by 2 years, Denial, event description, what were questions. 2 to 3 years, they take permission if they want to do things. They understand obligation by 4 years. Story completion they do. Few things here. 4 to 5, request for clarification. This is another important pragmatic thing. Like suppose the speaker is talking about a particular thing and the listener has not understood it. So the listener has to have the pragmatics to request for clarification. So and so point is not clear. Can you repeat it? Can you say it slowly? Or can you explain it in more detail? Request for information, permission, assistance, makes claims, gives warnings, protests, makes advanced request for information, follows directions, can take hints, make predictions and inferences. Children tend to do that. If you talk like this to me, I will not give you that toy. I will not share with you that. So it becomes more complex as age increases. By 10 years, they are able to resolve conflict and give comforting messages also. Persuasion also starts. Persuading a friend to come, it's okay, come, let's go play. Topic maintenance becomes better. So these were some aspects of pragmatics. The first part of it is less than 2 years of age. What pragmatics you see is nothing but the use of words, like how we discuss instrumental or regulatory function or heuristic function. All these are also a part of pragmatics. Okay. Now this is a little bit about theories of language acquisition. There are various viewpoints about how a child acquires language. It can be instead of that, behavioral theory is one set that they have learned through imitation. Language is learned through imitation. Nativism is nothing but the biological basis of language, that humans are born to learn language. That is one set of people. Cognitive is, we have already discussed it in terms of Piaget's theory, how language is acquired through cognitive development. Social interactional, how they pick it up through the environment. And there's a strong debate of nature versus nurture, that is whether it is innately we're born with that or whether it's the environment it is influencing. In reality, it is both. Because if a child is just born and left without any kind of exposure, he's not going to develop language. And in preschoolers, what are the aspects that you have to look at? Not only in terms of language, but the overall development. The gross motor skills you have to check out, fine motor, language. You will see that some of them tend to repeat whatever you're saying. What is your name? What is your name? Like that. And normal non-fluency. The speech is not fluent. Yesterday, ma'am, we went to the mall. That is a normal non-fluency. They are repeating the words or part of the sentence, but they're not struggling with it. When they're struggling, it is very obvious. Pen, mumming, like that. So these are different. Normal non-fluency is different. So you will see in typical preschoolers, you will see this echolalic behavior as well as non-fluent behavior. But it's not something, it's not a disorder. Okay, they need little more of language stimulation and improving their understanding of language. If you give them a lot of stimulation and slow down the way you speak to them and all, they're going to pick it up very fast. Cognition. In this aspect, they have a few characteristics like animism. They think that even non-living things have life. And they talk to cartoon characters. They talk to the walls. They talk to the pen, toys, anything. So that is animism. Egocentrism, it's the world is the way they view it. Lack of conservation, all this we have discussed. And also you have to look at the behavior and play. What they play by themselves, what they play with the group, which group do they mingle with, which do they avoid. Lot of observations can be made during free play time. Okay. Language delay. So far we have seen normal language development. So what is a language delay? Failure to develop speech at the expected age is a language delay. It is somewhat subjective, usually associated with other maturational delays, may also be associated with a hearing impairment, mental retardation, emotional disturbance or brain injury, and sometimes is the result of environmental deprivation. So if there is nothing of this sort, you need to think. If there is no hearing impairment, no mental retardation, no cerebral palsy, then what is it? That will come to it later. So generally in hearing impaired children, you see a delay in speech and language, limited babbling. I told you when the variegated babbling stage starts, they are not able to do it. Articulation, voice problems will be there, learning problems are there, and even if the hearing is normal, they could have something called central auditory processing problem. Like if you do a test and find out the hearing level, it will be normal. They are able to hear, but they are not able to process that information and make meaning out of it. That is an auditory processing problem. We'll come to it later at some point. Autism.
Basically autism, it is a neurologically based pervasive developmental disorder. Autism is a broad term, it's an umbrella term. Below that there are a lot of other things which are there. Okay, that is usually evident by the age of 3 and varies from low to high functioning. You have low functioning autistic children, you have high functioning autistic children. You have, it's a huge range of children that you are actually working with. What are the key features which you look? Lack of eye contact, that's very basic, it's very obviously you can see it. Aloofness, solitary play, poor social skills. Poor communication intent, they do not feel the need to speak. Even though they become verbal, they would want to speak, they will not feel the need to speak. Okay, we have to infer what they want and we have to do it. They will never feel the need to come and talk to you. Echolalia, most of them get stuck with this age because if they pick up speech, even though the child is delayed, even in a disorder when you are working with, there will be that normative pattern which follows. Even though you trigger or stimulate speech in them, that normative pattern they will follow, but most of them get stuck in this particular phase of echolalia because that processing itself is affected with them. So then the entire process changes when you are actually working with them. Mutism. They will just not speak. They understand everything, but they will just not communicate to you. Verbally, they will never tell you anything. Pronoun reversals are there. Yeah. Sensory integration issues, stereotypic behavior, perseverations, behavioral issues. Sensory integration issues is a key feature which you can actually see. You can actually see them toe walking, finger wriggling, okay, just looking at the hands like that, eye gaze, flapping hands. All this is basically at the neurological level, there are a lot of problems which is there. Okay, that's when you'll have to actually work on them which is there. They do this hand flapping quite regularly. There is a neurological problem in these small muscles. The blood flow is not happening very nicely. Okay, so once you give them that massage, they feel so much more better. Okay, or they put too much of pressure when holding you. So that's when you'll have to give him that all those different kind of massages which is there. Okay, that sensory integration, distraction. There are different areas which you actually look into when in sensory thing. Then is the oromotor problems. Lot of oromotor problems they have. Lips, jaws, tongue, spitting, blowing, not able to blow. Simple things you'll actually have to start teaching them. Or even apraxia will be present sometimes. Okay, apraxia basically is, you can...
It is a motor planning disorder. It's at the brain level. Like here, voluntary movements are affected. It could be at the motoric level or it could be at the speech. Like verbal apraxia is there. Other kinds of apraxia are also there. What we are concerned about is verbal apraxia. What happens there is, if at all there is a particular object or a toy, say ball. Okay, you're showing it to the child. Say, what is this? This is a ball. Ball. You tell 10 times, the child will just listen to you. What is this? Not able to say. You go that say, take another toy, the child says ball. Voluntary move. No, it's not about immediate reaction. Voluntarily they cannot say. Involuntarily they will say. It will come out. They have a lot of that grouping behavior, searching. They rehearse and see, but still they are not able to place it.
And that thing doesn't.
Coordination is not happening, and in ball, b, o, l, 3 phonemes are involved. That has transition from one to the next. That sequencing is not happening. So it is at the cortex level, at the brain level that it happens. Affected.
Normally, children at preschool levels, isn't it normal for them to solitary play?
It has to go.
Solitary play around 2 years, parallel play will be there, but not solitary play. Solitary play is like, they're not even aware of what is happening. Parallel play will be there. Parallel play is there, not solitary play.
He is playing here, I am playing here. That is okay, acceptable, because that is parallel play.
Yeah, because they usually don't play
Yeah, together. Parallel play is there. They sit side by side, but they observe what the other child is doing, and suddenly you can see that they imitate what the other child is doing. But in this, play itself is affected. Object use itself is not there. Okay, they would not know how to use a car. If you give them a car, they'll only be rotating the wheels which is there. It's spinning. Or they might have very weird things like, they might, you want to play only with your hair. They'll only want to play with your hair. They'll only want to play with thread which is there. They'll only just want to take anything in hand and just keep tapping on the thing, tapping on their teeth. It could be any kind of a play. That's the play which they want. Yeah, lining up of objects. Just perseveration. Keep lining about objects. Or putting things, everything in an order. It goes on. They keep doing that kind of a repetitive behavior which is there. Lining. Clear up everything which is there. Switch off the light and he'll leave. He's not bothered that we are standing there. So all that is the kind of a thing which is there. Suddenly when you're working with them, you'll have them leaving pencils and actually looking at their hands. Looking at the hands is at 3 months of age. So they play is basically at that age. When that play is not there, language is definitely not going to be there. Okay? Representation which is there. Yeah. That role play kind of a thing which is there.
Who are not able to talk, is it possible for them to talk in this?
It takes a very, very long time. Sometimes it's unclear. Years of training. Now at 13 years, this child is able to talk. Makaton. They use Makaton, not sign language. We don't have a formative sign language in India because all across the country there are different signs for different things. Okay, only we use American sign language. Only American Sign Language is actually formally taught at different levels which is there. They use Makaton there. That's a different kind of a vocabulary. Vocabulary words.
For that we teach like drinking.
That is not sign, that is Makaton. We should not confuse it with sign because sign language will include even grammar and everything. It's more like a language for the hearing impaired. We see, and they do it very well. They very fast also. They have a language in it. There is grammar in that also, in sign language, in Makaton. Grammar in it. That's different. When we get into mental retardation, sorry, it is more now, it's changed. No more is the word retardation used. Is it mental incapacity or something? That's what we call. Okay. There's a delay in motor milestones, very evident. That's the first thing, first criteria which we look in. After 2 years, the child is walking, definitely comes into this category. General slowing of cognitive abilities takes a very long time. Below average IQ and standardized tests which are there, both verbal as well as non-verbal. Characteristics depend upon the severity and usually associated with a lot of syndromes which is there. Most of our syndromes like Down syndrome. ADHD or ADD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, which is there. It is known as either attention deficit hyperactive disorder, attention deficit disorder. It can come under inattention, impulsivity or hyperactivity. So the entire branch you have to actually look into. What exactly is affected usually from 3 years and above. Below 3 years, you do not diagnose ADHD because it's a motoric planning and motor movements are very high in typically developing children because larger muscles and smaller muscles are just getting incorporated to the brain system. Medication is prescribed to some because some we cannot control other than medication. Behavioral excesses would be there, learning problems, reading, writing issues, pragmatic difficulties. ADHD is a neurobiological disorder that causes developmentally inappropriate levels of inattention, hyperactivity and impulsivity. Okay, so everything would be deficient, that's when it comes to ADHD. Some children will have only impulsivity which is very high, some of them only inattention. So it depends upon the observation and the diagnostic criteria that we actually use. SLI and LD. SLI is another special thing, that is specific language impairment.
That is also not diagnosed before 3 years of age because I told you by 2 years, if the vocabulary is less than 50 words, we call them a late talker or a late language emergence. Then we give them time and a lot of language stimulation. We train the parent how to talk to the child and all, and see at 3 years of age. Only then if they are delayed, we call them as specific language impairment. And specific language impairment is done by exclusion. The child should not have a hearing problem, should not have low IQ, should not have any other physical or cerebral palsy, any other condition. Nothing is there. Everything he looks normal. Only he cannot express. He can understand everything, but he cannot talk. Why is it? Then we think of this diagnosis as specific language impairment. Only the specific processes related to language processing are affected. So that information processing is the one which is problematic in these children. It may lead to learning disability later in life if not intervened at the right time. Sometimes even with intervention at different stages of life, they do get stuck at some point. So they keep coming back for follow-up. That's because oral language and written language, more or less it's like a continuum. Because speech develops first, then they go to school and then they develop reading and writing. So through oral language, slowly the transition is taking place to written language. The same way, if they have problems in speaking, slowly that gets transitioned to reading and writing problems also. Because the basic cognitive processes are the same for both. So that is the thing. That's why it's diagnosed through exclusion, and the marker is less than 50 words at 2 years of age, and it's a pure language disorder. There's no other associated problems with them. They might end up with reading, writing, arithmetic issue, and they always have average or above average IQ. They're very bright and intelligent children. Okay. Cerebral palsy, it is non-progressive neurological disorders. A group of non-progressive neurological disorders affects motor skills, feeding, communication, speech, language, and sometimes cognition. And there are different types of cerebral palsy. The one you must have heard of is spasticity. Spastics. It is a type of cerebral palsy. Okay, so that causes physical problems, motoric problems. Okay, they have different types of CP, cerebral palsy, different kinds of problems, and it's non-progressive. That is, by birth, the brain is damaged, and this is the thing. And as the development takes place, it does not worsen, but because development is hampered, you feel as though it's getting severe, but it's actually a non-progressive disorder. They have a lifespan, good lifespan. Okay. Some of the, like spastic CP will have low IQ, but athetoid CP will have very good IQ. And athetoid CP is associated with the hearing impairment, like that, lot of variations are there. So it's a group of disorders. So these are the different developmental disabilities we saw. Autism spectrum disorders. We don't say autism because there are a lot of disorders which come under this spectrum. Intellectual disability, hearing impairment, visual impairment, cerebral palsy, some syndromes, learning disability, attention deficit or attention deficit hyperactive disorder, delayed speech or inadequate speech and language or specific language impairment, conduct, behavioral and emotional disorders. These are the things that we see in children, like developmental disability. Developmental disability means it's a lifelong thing. It's a lifespan disorder. Now we have to break, I think. After that we'll start with the intervention. How to identify. I mean, now that you know, you can identify these children. So, how to, yes. Yes. Dyslexia is seen after they start to learn reading and writing, no? So in preschool age, no, we cannot call them dyslexia. After 7.
Diagnostically, it's usually from 5 years and above, because you have diagnostic tests for that which is there, and it's actually not termed as dyslexia. It is put as at scholastic disabilities. That is the term which is given, because you have two manuals which you follow when you're doing diagnosis. One is the DSM-4, which is given by the American Society, but we follow the ICD-10 because it's more for the Asian population. Okay, so you have to correlate both those criteria to fulfill it. So it's known as scholastic backwardness. In that itself, you have dyslexia is for reading, dysgraphia is for writing, dyscalculia is for maths. So like that it goes. So that's how it goes.
Generally, the term they use is learning disability.
Learning disability. So that's a very easy term, very late term which is there. So that's how it actually goes. Otherwise, diagnostic label is scholastic backwardness.
And it's not, we cannot label them in preschool age like that. At risk for learning disability, at risk for dyslexia.
Yeah, that at risk we can identify, and when we can start working with them. Yeah, so from 5 to 7 years, the kind of tests are different, the kind of needs are different. From 7 years and above, that reading you can actually manifest in the thing. And there could be two things when you're doing with the thing. Either it's a condition with the child or the environment. Because nowadays reading is never reinforced. Okay? That habit is lost. So you have to revive that habit again in the children. That's a habit which you create. We've actually started off with a reading club which is there. We are training the mothers how to read to the children. Because our mothers ask, we have to read to the children.
How do we read?
How do we read to the children? We were read, isn't it? Because our tradition is so oral. We have a very strong oral tradition. We don't have any written scriptures or any written form of it. We heard it from our parents, we learnt our entire thing. Our tradition is very oral, and most of the children in urban situation have lost out the tradition, and we have more problems. Because our education system is very, very traditional. 80% is through the oral method. That's when you identify these kind of children which come in.
But nowadays all children are hooked on to gadgets. iPad, iPod, mobile, computer, laptop. So they've lost the habit of
listening.
They don't have patience also to they don't have patience also to read those things.
Yeah. So that's a habit which has to be created in them. So habit formation time, isn't it?
changing also
Takes a long time. So we get back at 1:30.